Hello, and a warm welcome to you wherever you are. And it is our guest, Ginger Conlon, which is an award winning editorial leader who has covered marketing. Oh, we have a funny noise.
Mm,
Yeah, it's not me.
not me. I didn't say a thing. Ah. What?
Aha. Why I tried to get around my introduction part. Tom is looking for the challenge of the aliens, which are making the funny noises. And the ghost in the machine
They're
is
gone.
gone. Okay, cool.
For now.
I'm enthusiastic that we have won Ginger for the fifth time now, and she has very impressive reputation, and she has covered marketing in majority of her career. She's also a certified health coach and founder of Fit Life Over 50. So I guess I could learn a lot on going forward, staying resilient and vital, and known to us as a knowledgeable person, but not only knowledgeable, but also edutaining, such as the combination of entertaining and educating. She is a welcome guest. We would love to talk even more often, and we are very happy that she could make it for today's show. Luckily, we have had fantastic conversations and touched a lot of areas already, which were very thrilling to a certain uh-huh. Through Brent is already there. That is cool. We had some chats on studies, on takeaways from a very early part when she still was independent and then joined Genesys. And we even learned more because she is very fascinated on doing in-depth studies. And the value you can take out of this is part of our today's goal we would like to achieve. As she has shared with us a research Genesis, her employer had sponsored with MIT Insights Technology and the MIT Technology Review on Customer Experience Horizons towards 2024. Now we are very curious because she has a very close look into their own researches she had done and in combination. And before we start and the floor is taken over by Ginger, I would like to give her an opportunity to tell a bit more and all what I missed out and forgot to tell about you, Ginger. As a warm welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me back. Oh, got the heart there going. Um, Ralph, as you said, thought leadership director at Genesys. And so we create those large reports like the state of customer experience. We work with partners like MIT Technology Review Insights to produce reports like CX Horizons, which looks not only at the trends we're experiencing, but which of those trends will evolve further or what new trends will come up. And so that'll be a fun conversation for today. I do have to shout out to Brent. Yes, sometimes there are two Mets fans in one place that isn't Citi Field.
Yeah, fascinating.
We do get around. Not much, but we get around.
Yeah, if one of you would have been in soccer, we would have topics which you could share even more in detail with us. But so I'm here only curious and honestly do not have too much knowledge on that. So if you go in what you do in the gym and what you would advise for exercises for 60 plus, that is more than when you have a very direct listener at your end. Now, thank you for adding some of the introductory point. I would like to start off with one question which made me tick. What are your personal observations on the marketing after March 2020, when the Corona bug did hit us and change several things, routines and rituals?
Well, a lot of the biggest switches in terms of marketing really tried to make that more connection between the brand and the consumer. We're here for you kind of thing. And then along with that, on the service side, you saw, of course, a lot of switch to how fast can we improve our digital channels or add new self-service interactions so we can be there for you despite everything that is happening around us.
Right.
I recall one of our first conversations when the bug hit, that you said the communication which broke up and people got isolated. So their lifeline sometimes was only the phone, whatever type of phone, but at a sudden, a landline phone became the lifeline for especially people which were handicapped and couldn't leave their apartments or houses.
Yeah, it's true. There was a small percent, I want to say 7 or 10% globally, that of folks who just called the contact center just to talk to somebody. And that still rings true. It's probably a smaller number at this point, but there are times where you'll call customer service and maybe you'll be a little more chatty because you have an opportunity to speak with someone. And some places that's fine, and some places that they have average handle time numbers that they have to meet, so they can't speak with you.
I hate average handle time, but it's an important metric. But it always irks me just a little bit because of how average handle time and first call resolution tend not to line up, and I think you'd rather have first call resolution.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting challenge, right? Because first of all, some organizations are trying to move away from having agents actually measured by average handle time so they can relax and spend more time, because a lot of those agents, as AI-based self-service is handling the more rote tasks, they're getting more complicated interactions, so they need more time. But those same companies aren't necessarily getting rid of average handle time. They're looking at it for their own purposes, like scheduling and forecasting, right? They need to know, hey, how long are our interactions taking? So at least that they can manage to that. And then first contact resolution is also interesting because you have the situation of sometimes there's something that actually requires more than one interaction.
True.
And then sometimes it depends on channel, right? So if I start in a chat and then I have to go to an agent, maybe it's in, the chat sends me right to the agent. As a customer, do I consider that one interaction or two might be different than what the company thinks? And also, if I email, I'm more likely to include more than one question. So does that then complicate my resolution, because I might have to resolve in 2 emails back because I have to go to different teams to get the information? So, the definition of that first contact resolution or that first interaction resolution is going to depend based on the company, right?
Yeah.
Right. Is there maybe a new metric going to emerge that takes us past those?
I think there are companies that are experimenting with different things. Like, for example, some organizations are trying to use customer frustration score, or the opposite of that, where they have different terminology, but how easy is it for someone to do business with us, and they try and track that in addition to or instead of certain other types of measurement.
We had the opportunity to talk to Annika before Christmas, Annika Björk from Switzerland, living in Cyprus, and one of our CX heroes. She was giving us some feedback on that some of the insurance companies and the banks in Switzerland have changed to customer happiness and are no longer measuring the amount of time an incident needs to be closed, because they are encouraging their agents to take the extra mile for upsell opportunities, for cross-sell opportunities, and to get into a nearly live contact, because a lot of the Swiss especially prefer a virtual or computerized or telephone related advisory instead of going to their crowded banks.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons it's so important to understand your customers' preferences and provide various channels, and as much as you can, you connect those channels so that it's easy for your customers to move between them. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. I think different companies, their service and sales and marketing often have very blurred lines, and so there are companies like Sephora in some regions where they want their associates to spend time with customers because they're going to wind up selling more. Yeah. So and the same thing with I don't know what's coming to me, Zappos. They're happy to chat with you because you might walk away with 4 pairs of shoes instead of 1 or 2.
Hey, that's a deal. And that enthusiasm is very much me in my salesman's role, such as why don't I sell you 4 pair of shoes for a fair price and have the customer happiness factor, which is honestly one of the measurements which are taken and rising as instead of customer satisfaction. Yeah. But
and customer satisfaction is, I mean, I guess it depends on how you want to define happiness. Is it more or less valid than satisfaction? But the thing about satisfaction is it's fleeting, right? I can be totally satisfied with an interaction, or you as a brand, but then someone else comes along who's cooler or cheaper, and I'm like, oh, let me check them out, versus creating that emotional loyalty where you're really going to have to, as another brand, you're going to have to try really hard to pull me away from this brand that I absolutely love and maybe even have a tattoo of if I'm a Harley Davidson driver.
Yeah.
Doesn't happiness go via satisfaction?
Does happiness, say again, sorry?
Doesn't happiness go via satisfaction? I mean,
I think
satisfaction is a kind of a precursor.
Exactly, yeah.
You have lots of satisfactory events clumping together to make a larger sense of happiness.
Yeah.
It's a technical idea. I mean, I'm sure we can get that.
Clumping. Yeah. Clumping is very technical.
The clumping.
Yeah. So let's change a little tack from the customer side to the employee side. So how does a happy employee relate to the happy customer? I mean, you know this word. You know this word, right? So only happy employees create happy customers, whether it's true or not. Let's not discuss this because Esteban will jump on our backs. But what is the relation?
Well, let's look at it. Let's have some fun and look at it the other way, right? Cool. If you have angry, frustrated employees, how likely are they to give your customers a great experience? They're just going to do the absolute minimum that they have to do to talk to you, to solve your issue. I mean, they might have to say, thanks for calling. That's a big difference, as part of their script, right? Versus like, hey, thanks for calling. What can I do to help you? So even just that is going to make a difference on the customer side, right? I mean, do you want to, if you're calling a contact center, or even if you're having a chat, do you want to have the chat with the person who just really seems like they want to be anywhere else but there? Or would you rather have it with someone who seems engaged, likes their job, and then you feel like you're doing business with a company that cares about their employees, and that, it creates a virtuous cycle. I mean,
And it can be a vicious cycle, and such as the comparison between how you just emotionally reacted and showed us the engaged example versus work to rule. German saying is Dienst nach Vorschrift.
Well, I just want to get it over with. How about that one?
Yeah.
So I couldn't bloody care whether the guy on the other side is happy or not. I just want to get it over with and fast. So
yeah,
isn't that the experience? And then follow-up question is, who is in charge of experience? My favorite one, actually.
Well, so okay, there's a difference between how happy and disengaged versus engaged, right? It's the employee doesn't necessarily have to be, bubbly and enthusiastic, but disengaged can be so off-putting, and that might even slow up an interaction because they're just like, I have to do this thing that, versus like, I love my job and I'm killing it, so I feel like attitude is going to play into it. Even if you want to get your resolution fast. And if you think about it, companies and customers both want a fast first interaction resolution whenever possible, right? So
really?
It's
let me throw a wrench. Sorry if I interrupt.
Yeah.
I recently had an interaction with an airline. Needed to change the ticket.
Oh no!
So I could have said insurance right now as well. So what happened was, first things, your call is important to me. You are number 5 gazillion in line, and the approximate wait line is 4 hours. So now I get the bubbly employee. So guess what my reaction is?
Oh, well, you're probably annoyed because,
Oh, yes, more than that.
Well, that airline needs a different message because, your call is important, but if the reality is that they have all this long of a wait, what do they need to do instead? Do they need to add more self-service? Do they need to have the callback option so you're not having to sit on the phone? Do they need to hire more agents? I mean, they're saying their call is important, but they're not necessarily acting that way, and that's a different animal than the employee themselves, right? There's, unfortunately, the employee is suffering the frustration of the customer who they didn't cause.
It's like, your call is important to us, but not so important that we will fix the business processes that made you feel like you had to call in the first place.
Which is part one, and part two is this. Part one, your call is important, and part two, there's always the sentence, due to an exceedingly high amount of calls, which you virtually have always, then, well, the bubbly employee or the happy employee probably has a poor chance.
Yeah, well, it's so I just want to go back to the company situation because, like Marshall just said about not solving the business problem. I was just talking to Joe Wheeler the other day, who is the author of, hang on a second, just the digital first customer experience. And he was saying that sometimes when you had have a bad experience like that, you need to think to yourself, is this that they don't want to spend the money to fix this process, or is it that they really want you to use their app or their self-service, and so they're not going to change the contact center wait time because they don't want you there. They want to force you to another channel. And again, coming back to the bubbly employee suffers because now you're frustrated because of something that has nothing to do with them. But still, I'd rather get an employee that's upbeat and wants to try and work with you to make you feel better about the fact that you had to wait forever than someone who's like, oh, you had to wait. Well, that's just how it is. And let's get on with your resolution.
Yeah. So now the employee has a hard time staying happy and bubbly because they are constantly confronted with annoying guys who already waited for 4 hours in that example. And means basically they don't have the tools at their disposition that helps them doing their jobs right or better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that those companies should be considering, because if you want your employees to stay, I mean, whether they're, where they are on their happiness scale, if you want them even to stick around, you need to create an environment where they want to stick around. I mean, we've got so much turnover in this industry, and our CX in the Future of Work report, we asked, like, what are your greatest CX related challenges in terms of the work, right? And the top one was recruiting new employees. Way at the bottom of the list was retention. Hello, are these not connected? Like, if you fix your retention problem, you won't have such a hard time recruiting because you won't need to do it all the time.
Maybe recruiting is cheaper than educating and training people and giving them the right tools.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean,
just like when it was cheaper to get new customers for your cell service than to do anything to keep the existing customers.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that, Marshall. I was reading on CX Magazine today. The staff, the editorial team, has a trends article, and they were saying that they're seeing a trend of some companies really going towards that acquisition hamster wheel and not focusing on retention. Just hello, it's 2024. Like, you need a balance. Like, is this not common knowledge? I guess not. I mean, that's why we're all still here. We can all keep talking about these things over and over again.
It's keeping us busy.
Right. It keeps us in business, yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean, that pretty much relates to some numbers in your current study that says that still a lot of consumers, whether this is true or not true, say, okay, one bad experience, I leave. I doubt this number, but anyways, 2/3, even nearly 3/4 say that, well, customer experience is important. Whereas 1/3 says I leave with one bad experience. I doubt that. And on the other side, they say, well, a lot of businesses have a way to go to get to a satisfactory experience. Just translating the words of the report. Why doesn't that change? It's always the same since I can think.
You got the have drifted a bit.
Yeah. So in one, our State of CX, a third of customers said that they left after a poor experience. Right? So we asked it, did you leave because of a poor experience this year? And they said, we asked them last year. So they said yes. So 30% said yes. The number for how many poor experiences would it take for you to leave, it was 77% for 5 or fewer poor experiences. And then within that, there's some cuts that I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but if you think about the number of interactions you're potentially going to have with a company via digital channels, you can get to 5 pretty quickly. I think that, and that number, like how many poor interactions would it be before you would leave? I've seen a lot of variance of numbers in that. I've seen, 30%, I've seen 50%. I think that number is really, it depends. What kind of company is that customer thinking of when they answer that question? Because if you don't like a company and they give you a poor experience, you're probably out. Why bother sticking around? This is the first time I'm using you, or I've only used you a couple of times and it's terrible. So there's plenty of other options. But if you love a brand and you're loyal to them and there's one poor experience, you're probably likely to be forgiving, right? So that's probably where all this variance comes in, because it depends, even from within the same person, it's going to vary. You're right, no matter what they say.
Also probably based on industry, because if we would leave our utilities after one poor experiences, we all wouldn't have any internet connection, we wouldn't have cell phones, we wouldn't have electricity.
Yeah, exactly.
We might be better off, though.
Yeah. Back to caveman time. Yes.
Maybe. But still, the main question is, so yes, there is a range, but why doesn't it change?
So here's one reason I think it doesn't seem to change is we're just getting, as consumers, more and more spoiled. So if you look at some of the lists out there of the companies that are known for their customer experience, right? Their scores are either flat or down, even though they're delivering the same level of amazing experiences that they have been for the past X number of years. What's changed? Customers are more spoiled, right? They want better, faster now. Everything, channel when they want it. They want you to know whatever, all the expectations that we all talk about all the time. So that bar keeps raising. And so even if you're doing the same thing, like that was great, it's not great anymore. Now you have to figure out what's the next new thing that I have to do. It's like a hamster wheel.
Yeah. This spoiled behavior, can we trace that to the COVID era? Is that something that expanded more when people were stuck, focused on their own problems and calling out to get everything taken care of?
I mean, it probably got increased at that time, but it was happening before that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
If you go for the numbers which are quoted in the arrangement of the MIT folks which did the research, they collected a lot of research which is not all brilliant new, such as it has to be taken into account that, for instance, the numbers we are just reflecting on were from 2018, pre-COVID. So the general change in customer behavior, like Marshall just mentioned, shows an impact. And so does, if you go to your own reports, which were during the COVID crisis, and the entity numbers, which are reflecting such as what does the C-level think about the investment in supporting customer experience and employee experience measures, and do they pay off?
Yeah, we included some data in our CX Horizons report that like 90% of CEOs think that customer experience is a worthwhile investment. And, think about why. When you give a great experience consistently, and you make it easy for people to do business with you. Yeah. So the customer experience is a broad thing, right? It's all right. So just I'm just going to pick some elements of the customer experience, right? So one element is making it easy for you to do business with a company. Well, then I'm more likely to come back because you've made it easy for me to come back, right?
Yeah.
And then personalization, another aspect of the customer experience. Consumers say when you personalize the service experience consistently, 80% of consumers say that when a brand personalizes the service experience consistently, they're more likely to buy more often and recommend. All of those things hit the bottom line, right? When you personalize, and if you personalize over time and create what Don Peppers and Martha Rogers called a learning relationship in their book, The One-to-One Future, you create also at the same time a switching cost. Because now, if I leave, I have to start over with another brand, and I have to hope that they are as interested in learning about me to create that personalized experience that I loved working with you. Like, one of the reasons I stuck around is because you know me and you're gonna give me an experience and offers and whatever because of what you know. So now I'm gonna go to brand B and they don't know anything, and I've got to start all. So I'd rather stay with you. I'd rather forgive that one poor experience because I know that you actually value my business and you want to treat me as a valued customer. So,
sorry.
And then the one last thing I'll say is, like I talked about before with the employees, look at it from the other way. If you deliver a poor experience, how long are you going to keep your customers? Right? So one of my favorite quotes, Sam Walton, years ago, said, "A customer can fire everyone from the CEO on down just by taking their business somewhere else."
Yeah.
So
now, what I found interesting so far is that all the topics, Ralph, you need to give a pitchfork in a second. What you mentioned was all about marketing. So I personally am highly interested in getting my issue solved or my job to be done solved. So if I get a smiling sorry, no can do, or a not smiling here it is, guess where I go? So why is nearly no one of us putting the solution to the customer's challenge or to the customer's issue at hand into the experience bucket? Why are we always getting to support or marketing, personalization? I personally couldn't care less about a personalized message that I don't want. So, but that's me. Yeah, you might be different.
No, it's interesting that you say that, because the State of Customer Experience report that we did found that the number one type of personalization that consumers find valuable is getting the services they want in the channel that they need when they need it, right? So if I want to chat with you at 5 a.m., you're there to chat with me, and because I want to use chat. If I call you, I shouldn't have to wait 4 hours to actually have a conversation with you. Like, that personalization to them is, you are there for me where I need you. That's the most valuable form. So, and that's, perhaps a broader definition of personalization, but if that's how consumers are defining it, then that's their reality, and then we have to consider that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this supports
fair enough.
Several of the findings. Yeah.
Why doesn't it happen then?
How long do we have?
We can do a sequel.
Well, I think I think to Marshall's point before, sometimes companies don't want to invest in the cost that it will take to fix certain processes.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about customer service as a bunch of dials, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I tweak this dial to, I don't know, reduce average handle time, well, then it might tweak my cost dial, but I don't want that cost dial to go past a 6. But the only way to fix my average handle time would make it a 7. Well, then I'm going to, so I think a lot of the considerations come down to what, as a business, what do I actually value versus perhaps maybe what I say I value.
So it's arbitrage.
It's always the case, I guess. But then what's the value of customer orientation then? Are we going away from customer orientation, which would be, using your example, tweaking this one lever to 7? Because this is where the customer wants to be.
Yeah, I don't think we're going away from it. I think that companies are continually trying to find the balance that works for them on delivering customer experience in a way that is still that delivers business value to them, right? You need that. It's got to be a two-way street.
Yeah.
And this question makes me think about, people talk about 3 different types of companies, right? A customer-centric company, a price-oriented company, and an innovation-based company. And you can, generally, you're good at one of those, maybe you're good at 2, but you're rarely good at 3. I have to argue that, okay, not that I'm disagreeing with that premise, but if you think a little bit more about it, and you think about what customer experience means at the broadest sense, if I am a price leader and I'm known to be a price leader, and my customers expect that and love that about me, then that is a customer experience that I am delivering, right? You can go to the Apple store, who's known for its customer experience, and you could go to Costco Wholesaler, which is a big box store where you can go get, a month's worth of supplies, toilet paper and breakfast cereal. Those experiences and price points are completely different.
Yeah.
Yet those companies always get top marks. Because why? Because they're doing a brand promise. They're meeting the brand promise that they have out in the market. And Costco, it's price. And so that's the experience that customers want and expect. And so they're happy. So, innovation, same thing, right? You can be innovative. Maybe your, customer service isn't 100%, but the overall customer experience might be great, and customers might score it really high because you being innovative is what they love about you. Even if, maybe you have to wait 20 minutes instead of 5 minutes to actually talk to an agent if you have a problem, so it's an interesting consideration.
Yeah, actually, it's a dilemma because, as you said, you can't be everything for everyone.
Yeah,
we have here an observation that you would like to share with you. It's the Bermuda Triangle of competing goals, which is quality, speed, and price. And I saw recently an advertisement of a craftsman who offered me his services, and he said, "Mr. Kolb, we are known to be reliable and delivering the 3 of this, but you may only choose 2, which are important for you.
Right.
Elsewise, I will goof." I found this admirable.
Yeah.
You can have it cheap, you can have it good, or you can have it now. Pick 2.
And the other thing is, your Casco is our Aldi, where there's things change to a certain degree. As, for instance, Harald Henn, who is a big Aldi fan, or was a big Aldi fan, said, Aldi was always reliable. You find the stuff at the same place. So you could speedily shop what you needed. You had a very fast checkout, and you know that you
What?
had unfriendly people. Yeah?
When was that?
Because they were unfriendly. I said unfriendly
No,
people.
fast checkout and speedy. When was that?
Okay.
Must have been before my time, but
The thing is, this is what is creating a value picture. It's a cinema in your head, such as this is my set expectation. Don't disappoint it. You may overperform. You are allowed to overperform. And now I would like to jump into that magic box which is opening up, such as Shazam, here we go. And now AI is opening new windows of opportunities. Oh, Ginger.
I think 3 is quite right here. Let's get into that one about experience. I think he reflects on our experience points here, that it's the perceived value instead of the monetary, or the monetary value, basically. Let's subsume the qualitative one there as well.
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah,
say?
I mean, perception is reality, right? For us, it's an axiom for a reason.
Right. But someone is always going to want the numbers behind that perception. That's where it gets tricky. Sorry, Thomas, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I did it.
We interrupt each other continuously. I'd rather you interrupt me than the other way around, because you are the one
The quiet one. Yeah.
The quiet one with the smart thoughts. So isn't that picture that 3 puts up here the same as brand expectation, basically, the expectations that a brand creates? I mean, I'm far more, taking me as an example again, I'm willing to spend far more dollars for an iPhone than for a Samsung phone. Just plain out. So the one I pay for 4 digits and the other one 0. Simple as. Yeah. So is that because of positioning, brand positioning, or that makes the value of a Samsung phone 0 for me? Or am I just too hooked up in the Apple ecostructure?
Yes and yes, right? I mean, what is your perceived value? It's going to be individual, right? So I remember going to a conference. Free coffee everywhere. You could get a cup of coffee at however many different places. And in this convention center, it's a small one, right in the middle of everything is a Starbucks kiosk that has a line that must have 50 people on it that are all within steps of free coffee. They'd rather pay their $4 for their macchiato from Starbucks than the free coffee, because the perceived value is that I love this coffee. I love the experience of getting the coffee. So they have a high perceived value.
Yeah, it's a ritual for them. It's like
Even
if they wanted to, it's a habit that they're not easily going to break.
That is exact on the spot, Marshall. That what I was observing and was reflecting in one of the questions. How did customer behavior on rituals, and beloved things have changed over the last 4 years, or 5 years, even though, as during COVID times, we had less opportunities to get into that rituals we love, as we were not allowed to. And the other thing is, everything is driving us nearly crazy and mad about the utilization of artificial intelligence. There's a bad and a rude saying, better a little artificial intelligence than no human intelligence. Such as behavior, rude and not adequate treating customers, for instance. But I was so curious, because we follow for a certain amount of time, the path Genesys is taking, supporting the agents and users with the help of artificial intelligence to get their work done in a different way. So now comes the advertising part to a certain degree, but as you are very neutral, it is honestly fact-driven observation request, such as what is happening there right now.
Well, I think just generally, organizations are looking to use AI to support their frontline employees before, during, and after interactions. Right. So beforehand, with things like predictive routing, getting a customer to the agent most likely to be able to resolve their issue, completely, quickly, knowledgeably. During interactions with things like recommending next best actions, real-time coaching, and then after interactions with things like auto summarization, where the call summarization, the AI takes care of it, and then they only have to review the notes to make sure they're correct, because you can't let that Gen AI get all on its own. That's a whole nother conversation. And then things like then post-interaction coaching and training that can happen, where the AI can do the speech and text analytics across all of the interactions instead of a human only having time to do a handful. So the AI then informs that person, the supervisor, who can then give a more or a less subjective, more objective training and development opportunities conversation with their agents. And help them not only in the moment, but over time to develop their skills.
Which leads to quite very interesting observations also in your report. So the highest prioritized investment topics in a call center environment are, well, AI coaching training and more monitoring. So if I combine them, if I put myself into the position of an agent, I'd be quite scared. So I'm already in one of the most monitored and least valued positions, and now I'm getting monitored more. So how can businesses, which have an interest in monitoring and training, which is fair enough, but still there's this bridge that needs to be walked, that makes me, as the one on the receiving end of the stick, understand that this is to my help and not yours as the employer. So how can they do that? What do you recommend them doing?
So it goes back to what I was just saying, right? So you're being monitored more, because now you can track all of your interactions versus just a few. But think about that. Now you're being monitored across the full reality of your interactions, instead of your manager happens to choose one when you were having a bad day and the most complicated one, and it was like it just went all wrong. And that's not typical of the way that you interact with customers, right? So it becomes much less subjective and in a way more fair and accurate, because now you're getting this breadth. Yes, you're being monitored all the time anyway. So how about having a better experience being monitored, because now there's more accuracy about what is coming out of those speech and text recordings, right? So
and they could show more empathy. Get you in a situation where you're good and help you in a situation where it's getting worse for you.
Two points there. One is the perception still is it's used against me, which needs to get changed, obviously. And the other one is there recently was an acquisition of a competitor of yours, which I won't mention. One of the statements that was there is that even technology-based, AI-based was their statement, systems can monitor only 2% of all interactions. unless you're using that one, yeah, which they acquired. So what I heard out of your statement is that, well, this is vastly exaggerated, that actually the quality of observations done is far better than 2%, which is tiny, actually.
I mean, that's my understanding. It's so.
Well, it's a competitor of yours, so you must have some data too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not the right person to answer that competitor question. So we'll just leave it there.
But the basic question is, can technology support that much or scale that much that, well, a significant amount of data interactions is used, or significant enough amount of interactions is used to help me, agent?
Yeah, I mean, that's what AI is there for, right? We're going across enough volume of interactions that it actually makes for a better experience, a better coaching and training and learning and development experience.
So in contrast to them, you think we are basically there already? Yeah?
I mean, the companies that are using it, not everyone has it. Even where there's capable capability, is it turned on? Are they using it? Not everyone is.
Yeah. Fair enough. Which points to the second one. So what do you recommend businesses using this of any vendor? Yeah? To show me as the employee that it's my help and not a threat. You know how people are, right? So sometimes as an employee, you are automatically the one in less power than the employer.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to what Ralph said, right? You have to show by doing, right? You have to show that you're listening to give them praise and catch them doing something right, not just always making corrections. I think it's very important. I think explaining how you're using the technology and making that clear. I think providing dashboards where you're making the data available. A lot of companies do this already, and they do it to varying degrees. But using dashboards that show your performance and or your team's performance, depending on what type of company, what type of environment they have, so that you can track what you're doing, like in real time or near real time, and make adjustments on your own. So you need to show that you're using the tools for good by actually doing it, not just talking about it.
Now, I have one of my favorites. Thank you very much. Highly appreciated. As a empathy fan and the promoter of empathic CRM, I just wanted to have your observation on how important is empathy and for that report, your findings, and your own perspective towards 2024.
We think that empathy is exceptionally important, but not just empathy. Yeah, not just empathy in one-to-one interactions between an agent and a customer. Also in digital interactions, right? So an empathetic experience, if you're putting yourself in your customer's shoes, right? Your customers, our research finds that customers want to feel heard, understood, and valued. So if you are making it easy for them to do business with you, if you're personalizing the experience, if you're not leading them to dead ends, those kinds of things can be digital interactions that are empathetic, because I now feel like you value me, like you understand me, because you are taking the time to use the information that you have about me to speed up my interaction help me get to resolution faster, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Apologies for the trigger of I'm starting to talk about enthusiastically on empathy, and some magic AI-driven machines needs to applause and spend and give some sound quotations. Apologies.
I just want to take a moment and go back to the employee. We did research with a company called Value Graphics about what employees care about, what their values are, but also what they value at work, and specifically, customer-facing sales, service, and tech support globally, 16,000 folks, and they want clear expectations, right? So what that means is, don't tell me that you want me to be happy and nice on the phone and take my time, but then measure me on average handle time, right? So consistent expectations. They want learning and development opportunities. They want opportunities for advancement, and they love learning new technology, right? So if you have all this, these are all great things. And so if for organizations that don't treat their agents like revolving chair butts and seats, and actually consider the value that their frontline folks in the contact center can bring to the customer experience and how powerful that can be, you've got a huge opportunity to take care of those folks, and they'll take care of your customer, and it's a big win all around.
Right.
This goes in the direction of, does CX pay off? Question.
Yeah, the greatest value, the number one value that we discovered in that report, that high-performing employees share, is personal responsibility. So what's interesting about that is that in all the research that Value Graphics has done, no other group has had that as their number one value. It's usually something like, family or something along those lines. And personal responsibility, this is I want to get things done type of value. I want to be in charge of taking care of things. So knowing that about your agents and all the other things that I just said, if you help, like you said before, Thomas, give your employees the tools and training that they need to do their job and take care of customers, they're up for it.
Which leads us close to the top of the hour here. So
getting there.
It went far too fast again. So looking edutainment, Your report was called CX Horizons, means looking into the future, or looking far at least.
Looking to the horizon.
Could be far back as well. But let's look forward. CX in 5 years. Combine that with current AI trends. Where do you see it going? Famous last words.
Famous last words. It's going to be just like it is and nothing like it is. Right? So I love that quote, "The future is here, it's just not evenly distributed yet."
Yeah.
Okay, so that is going to continue. And there are things that we're going to have this conversation in 5 years, and we're going to be, some of the things we're going to be talking about the exact same thing. We're going to be like, why are we still talking about this thing? Because some companies just haven't moved forward. And then other companies are going to be using AI to create experiences that we haven't even thought of ideas of how to get to that point yet. They're going to 6G will come on, and the latency will virtually disappear, and we'll be able to do all kinds of crazy things that we can't even imagine yet, that we'll start moving towards over the next couple of years. And somewhere in the middle, there are going to be companies left so far behind because they haven't made any forward progress with AI that, you know, they're just going to be gone the way of the dinosaur.
Velociraptors are gone, yeah.
And just like the dinosaurs are gone, our time has also passed for the week. Just for the week. I mean, we're still relevant. You come back and all. Ginger, thank you so much for joining us again. Your insights are always spot on. We're lucky to have you. Audience, thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Next week, tune in, if you will, and we will dive more into the impact of EX and CX in the context of workforce experience management with our guest next week, who is Merin Taboui. So join us then, won't you?
Thanks again.
Thanks everybody.
No, Ginger can come back too.
Of course. See you soon.